Hey guys, welcome back. This is Derek coming again from Team Stags here. This is week 4, May 14th, Saturday afternoon, and we're doing great. Hope you guys are doing awesome. We got a rainy day here. We had some downpours last night, and it's looking like it's going to be one of those weekends. So definitely be doing some of the cardio inside rather than hitting the streets. So progress this week, we just took the weight. We didn't do pictures or body fat or measuring the waist. We'll save that for next week because we did it last week. Good news, weight is down to 174 throughout this week. I usually measure my weight once or every one day or every couple of days, and it's been bouncing between 173 and 174. Today I weighed in at 174, so we're down from 175, and that complements the waist measurements from last week and shows that I am slowly beginning to lose the body fat, which is great. That's what we're after. And as we continue this, I'll keep the measurements of some of the other body parts to sort of, like for example, arms, to keep a tab on how small are the arms getting. If it's not really changing, that lets you know that you're keeping the muscle while you're losing the body fat, and that's really what we're all about. So we'll do those measurements too as I start to lose more body fat. For the diet this week, we made one little change. We're keeping carbs the same at 360, protein the same at 260. We dropped the fat from 80 grams to 70 grams. Now I want to mention at this point it's getting difficult for me to start manipulating my different food sources because for fat, I'm already down to 1 egg yolk and I don't want to take that out. I'm down to 1 ounce almonds. I don't want to take that out. I get some fat from my oatmeal. I get some fats from some of the lean meats that I eat too. And also my protein powder. So now I'm experimenting with different protein powders. My old powder had 6 grams of fat per scoop actually, so 2 scoops, that'll be 12 grams. That's a lot if you're hitting that 3 times a day. So now I'm down to a different kind of whey that only has 1 gram of fat per scoop, so that takes me down to 2. So that's one way that I'm manipulating the food sources to get my macronutrients to be where I want them to be, and it's going to be sort of a juggling act as I go through and start to lower all of my my different macros to meet the needs that Tim is saying I need to meet, and we'll see. It's going to be interesting, so follow along. I'll definitely show you those challenges as well. So speaking of challenges, what I want to talk to you about this week and next week is challenges and accomplishments. This week I want to talk to you about challenges, next week accomplishments, to show you that I'm a real person. So far I've shown you a lot of tools, a lot of numbers, a lot of way of doing things, but this week I want to show you that me, just like you, I have challenges, and that's okay. Because you have challenges, that doesn't mean you're a failure. It doesn't mean anything. It's natural, and I want to share with you some of the challenges that I've been having. Because that's real. That's especially with a sport like bodybuilding. It's one of the most difficult sports because you're competing with yourself. You're not competing with anybody else. So you have to constantly make efforts to be better than you were the day before, or the week before, or the year before. And the same for when you get on stage. It's these incremental changes and getting better that makes you better. But along the way, you have to face these challenges to get to these improved places. And that's the only way to do it, is to slowly climb that ladder and deal with your challenges and take the opportunities as they come and take the best out of them. So sorry about that technical error. Going back to the first challenge, one of the big challenges for me is eating out at a restaurant. For me, I like to socialize, I like to be with people, and I like to eat while doing it. It sort of sounds like an Italian family to some extent, but that's the way I was brought up. We talk around the dinner table or whatever it is. And so naturally I like food, and I like to eat food when I go out to places, these different restaurants or bars, and that's a challenge for me because the foods that they provide are not on the bodybuilding list of foods to eat, especially as you're getting ready for a bodybuilding competition to step on stage at 6% body fat. So this is a challenge for me. Do I not go and partake with my friends, and do I sort of lose that aspect, or do I do it and then I suffer the consequences of eating poor foods? Well, I sort of like to find a happy medium for me, is selecting the better foods, But you know what? I'm human, and like I said before, I will have a beer or a couple beers, or I will, have a little bit of something that I shouldn't necessarily have. And that's a constant challenge for me. And I don't want to not go out. It's getting summer, it's getting nice out. I want to go out and do things. I just finished school. The last thing I feel like being right now is strict and discipline. I want to go out and have a good time. And so it is a challenge for me to do that. But I have to make the best choices that I can and not beat myself up over it. And if I do eat something, to know that I'm not a failure because of it. I'll take it in stride, and sometimes you just have to eat it, figuratively and literally. Sometimes you just have to accept it and then start fresh the next day and be like, you know what, I ate that or I drank that, and you know what, I'm gonna work my ass off today to make up for it. And that's just life. You can't be so strict and rigid all the time. I mean, we're gonna be like that as it gets really close to the show. But if you were to do that for the whole 6 months out, you'd go crazy unless you were one of these people that have the knowledge and the experience and have done this for quite a long time. Like you look at these national level competitors or professional bodybuilders or professional athletes that they have a team, they have a coach, they have the experience for doing this. That's not who I am. That's never who I said I was. I've said from the beginning that I'm an average Joe, trying to show you, things that you can do to make your dreams come true of getting on the bodybuilding stage and dealing with these real challenges. So the first challenges was eating out, being in the social activities with the threats of bad food and drink around you. Secondly, sometimes I'll have a late night at 1 o'clock, and I got to get up the next morning and go to the gym. I'm sure everybody can relate to this, and sometimes you just have to kick yourself in the butt. I usually don't stick on this too much because I know I have to get in the gym. I'm not going to get any stronger. I'm not going to get any bigger if I'm not constantly getting in the gym, constantly putting myself under progressive weight resistance. Have you ever heard that term before? Progressive weight resistance. That's what it is. Constantly exposing your body to these different stresses on the body so that you can react and become stronger. If you're not getting your butt in the gym, you're not going to have that, and you're going to have a break in the cycle, and your body's going to start to deteriorate slightly. Your muscles are going to get smaller. So you think about all those things when you don't want to go in the gym, and you're like, okay, I'm going to go in the gym. I don't want to get smaller. I don't want to dump my last 6 months efforts in the off season because I stayed up too late last night. But you know what? It happens. Sometimes you're late working on a project. Sometimes you just can't sleep. Sometimes you're out with friends. Regardless of the reason, you don't always get the amount of sleep that you need to get, and you feel groggy or whatever before going to the gym. You need to find out what you need to do to get in the gym because you have to be there. And for me, that's a challenge. That's another challenge. It sounds good to say, but it's not always done. I feel half asleep going to the gym. Sometimes when I have these late nights, and like I said, I don't waver on this too much because I know I got to get in there. So regardless of how I feel, usually I find some way to throw myself in there. But I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. And getting sleep, is essential to your growth. And if you do get to sleep, you're not going to necessarily have this problem. But like I said, that's life, and life happens. And I'm talking to you about challenges to let you know that they exist, and you can't always logic or reason your way around them and say, well, this should be like this. Well, you know what? Life happens, and sometimes you just need to say, okay, it was a bad day or whatever. Go in and do half a workout because that's a lot better than not going in at all. Sometimes you can't have your optimal performance because of these challenges. So do the best you can. That's all that anybody can ask you. That's all you can ask of yourself, and don't beat yourself up over it. And then so lastly, for me getting on the bodybuilding stage, I have sort of a constant mental thing in my head about size, and I think a lot of the smaller bodybuilders have this too. I'm not a big guy. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm not a big guy. And my weight, my height, I'm 5'10", 174 right now, and 23 years old. When you think of a bodybuilder, you think of a huge guy that's probably 225 pounds plus, and And at least that's what I think of. And so when I think of going on the stage against those guys, it's just like, well, what are you even doing up there? I mean, you're not big. You can't do it, and you can't give into those kind of thoughts. But for me, and I'm sure a lot of you out there, you're constantly dealing with some thoughts of you're not as good as you should be. But you know what? That's you comparing yourself to other people. That 225-pound guy or whatever. All you can do is compare yourself with yourself. Compare yourself with how you used to be to where you are now. I know I'm so much better than I was, even a year ago. I'm bigger, I'm leaner, and I'm stronger. And, I've done my best up to this point. So I can't beat myself up over it. But you know what? Sometimes I do. And that's just life. Sometimes I think about getting on the stage like, why are you even doing this? You're not big, you don't look like a bodybuilder. And some people, at the same time, some people would venture to say, what are you talking about, man? You are big, you've got a huge frame, you've got big arms, you've got big legs. And so it's sort of that internal dialogue that you got to take control of. And it's always going to be there, most likely. But you have to know how to control it and not let it stop you from taking action. If I were to let these defeatist thoughts stop me from getting on the stage, that would be the real failure. For me to have these thoughts, that's not the failure. I just got to keep moving on, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate with that. Some ways, some shape, some form. I know a lot of ladies, deal with body image, especially very self-conscious, and you can't let that stop you from taking action. Know that you are better than the way you were before, and you're getting better, and that's all you can ask for yourself. So I'm not going to drag this out too much more. Next week we're going to talk about accomplishments. What happens when you break through these challenges and you turn them into opportunities, and you have something called success, and you can also call it accomplishment. So I'm going to keep this short. You guys have a good week 4. Stay out of the brain, and I look forward to seeing you next week, week 5. Later.